What's up, funky people? Laura Funk God here on an episode of Funky Psyche, the place where funky psyches get together, explore the weird crevices of groovy minds. I am here with a very special guest, my friend and fellow artist, writer, and activist, Candace Mercer, aka the Punk God. Okay, so this is very special. Funk God meets Punk God. Candace is an awesome lady. She has been doing activism, art, writing, for over 40 years. So she's been doing this since 1980. Okay. So she's the real deal. We've connected on Twitter for a while now. Over a lot of things we have in common. We're both artists. We're both activists within sort of gender-based issues and related issues. Disability, mental health issues, trauma, healing, and we're both artists, and we both started Etsy stores at like the same time. So we have a lot of synchronicities. And I really wanted to speak to Candace today about all these different things. Specifically, she has this really awesome giveaway opportunity for her art store. So Candace, if you want to say a little bit more about that, I'm sure that people would be very excited.
Oh, yeah. A very generous benefactor has offered to give 4 people get $30 gift certificates to my store so they could pick out an item of their choosing. So that's really awesome. We'll be giving that away. I'm also going to be doing a giveaway with some stickers and some of my other art in honor of D-Trans Awareness Day.
That's right. D-Trans Awareness Day is coming up on March 12th. Really a lot of stuff going on for that. So first off, I've got my merch. As you might have noticed, I got my beanie, which this is probably my favorite item that I've done, as well as the Funky Lizard shirt. Also very cool. I have another Funky Lizard shirt from last year in the background. So D-Trans Awareness Day, we're both doing a lot of stuff. Shirts, hats, stickers, protest flags available for that. And then Candace also has her art in the background there. You can see one of her pieces. And I also just got a shirt from her, which is super cool. She did this Picasso-esque design for the ladies, the funky ladies. So
that is genuine 1980s art that was hand drawn, no computers. We didn't have those back then. So yeah, if you want to go 80s, there you go.
I know you guys want to go 80s, okay? 80s, 90s, any time than now, right? Right now, there's a lot of stuff going on. So we kind of wanted to talk about some of the major events that are going on in the gender advocacy, awareness, activism related space. So I think the coolest thing that's happening right now is that the Affirmation Generation documentary was just released. Okay, I'm in that documentary, so I'm obviously a bit biased towards it, but it's a really beautiful film. The filmmakers spent over a year making it. There's tons of evidence in there. And I share my story and some art and music. It's the story of several different detransitioners, many different medical professionals and therapists within the gender world contemporarily are discussing sort of the more nuanced reality of what's going on right now with today's youth and today's culture around affirmational care. And Candace has been a supporter of that. And so, Candace, I just want to know, like, obviously I'm biased towards the film being in it and all my friends are in it. But what did you think of the film as a mom in this space and as a feminist and activist?
Well, those are different roles. As a mom, it's heartbreaking to watch these stories. There's a maternal instinct that kicks in that it's it's painful. I've actually only watched the first 40 minutes because it was getting to me emotionally that particular night, and I had to stop because I also had to get to sleep, and I knew I needed some time to think about it. I definitely am going to watch the second half. As an activist, it of course makes me mad. As an artist, I'm really glad the film got made. The production quality is fabulous. The quality of the people involved, both the detransitioners and the various medical professionals, is top notch. I hope it gets wide viewings. I hope people will have showings of it like they did with What is a Woman. It's a really important film, and I think it's going to be a landmark film. And it's done with such heart and courage that I don't know how any parent can watch it and not be moved and not see what's going on as being wrong.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also hoping that it spreads. It's already gotten some attention, let's say, right? It was banned after 3 days on Vimeo, where it was originally released, and then hordes of people started protesting that, and it was trending on Twitter within like 2 days, and they've since reinstated it, at least for now, on Vimeo, thanks to sort of the pushback for free speech, really. And so I'm really excited about that also, because I am going to be going to a large scale watch party. Well, more than a watch party, there's going to be a Q&A panel in LA on Detrans Awareness Day, March 12th. So I will be going to LA and taking part in a panel discussion with some of the producers and other detransitioners involved in the film. So you guys stay tuned for that, because that's going to be a lot. Okay, surely you will hear me talking about it, and probably in a future episode, getting into that. So there will be viewings of that.
It's very exciting that you're getting to go and do that, and like that's a real honor, especially having it at the museum. And the one thing I wanted to just comment on them censoring it, etc., is there's a principle in activism and in life. It's a Stoic principle called the obstacle is the way. And they think they're throwing up obstacles, but what they're really doing is they're basically your PR people. Them causing the controversy is going to get the film much more attention. And they might try to ban it, and they might make releasing it and distributing it harder, but that's not going to stop it from getting out. And the more controversial it is, because they're making the controversy, I think the more people will potentially want to see the film so they can judge for themselves, what's going on. And hopefully, like, people that might come to watch to hate on it, or people who might be, ambivalent, or who are in their camp, but maybe still have that seed of gut in their gut that, I'm not fully comfortable with this. If you can pull those people in to watch it because of the controversy, I don't know how, again, watching the film, especially if they're parents, that seed won't grow, and they will start changing their opinion. Not to get too off track, but I mean, it was the detransitioners, especially when they started going on Benjamin Boyce's show. They're the ones that broke it for me. Like, hearing the stories, my voice has changed. I can't sing anymore. The voice part really got me, especially that, it's just a constant reminder. And hearing those stories, I don't know how people could hear your stories and hate on you and want to hurt you and want to shut you up.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of, to put it lightly, I'm not a fan of the hate that I get from just, obviously I have my angle. I have my many angles. I'm very open about that and I'm allowed to have opinions, but at the core of it, I'm just telling a story. I'm telling a story about my experiences growing up, my developmental trauma, the issues, the complex cultural, psychosocial issues that contributed to me making this decision just the steps along the way. I'm just telling a story of what my experience in life is and how I feel about it and how I've been harmed by it. And it's not just me saying it, it's many other people telling their stories. And it's the fact that many people's stories are so very similar. They're so similar. So you can't really make a case that this is just an individual sort of problem. It's obviously a widespread cultural issue that has become a phenomena. And I think maybe that's why people get so defensive about these stories, because it's not just one person's story, even though that's kind of their argument, right? That's the oppositional side's argument, that this is rare and that these are just individual stories or just individual people's egos or whatever, they say, when really they know that it is a threat to maybe their perspective, because there's so many people's voices chiming together in a unifying chorus of the same issues, the same problems that they encounter along the way, and all these steps in the affirmational process, how easy it is to acquire these, permanent medical interventions for mental health issues, and the negligence of care. And so that's really what was so powerful about the documentary, was that it wasn't just my story, even though it was a personal narrative, and it not to say that you can just substitute any old person's, life experiences in for another, but it can be archetypal because these stories are emblematic of a widespread negligence of medical care. And that is the, transgender healthcare. That is what gender medicine is about. We're supposed to be helping people with gender dysphoria at the end of the day, as well as other people, anyone who comes in as a vulnerable person who needs some type of help, with having a better quality of life. And so I think that's what is so powerful and so threatening about these things.
Absolutely. You all and the film and people like yourself and Chloe and Richie, you are a threat. You are dangerous because it's a cult, and you were in the cult and you left the cult, and like with any cult, one of the marks of a cult is that people can't leave, and if you leave, you are shunned. But I think what makes you all particularly dangerous is how authentic you are, how real your stories are told with such raw honesty. And you are just trying to tell your story, but it is also functioning, hopefully as a warning to the medical establishment. I am stunned that the medical establishment is allowing this to happen, and that it's an institutional capture. It's like one of the most radical captures I feel of all the captures that have gone on. And they're disabling people. They're literally disabling people. And I'm disabled, so I'm appalled about this. And just briefly, not to get too in the weeds, but I'm a chronic pain patient. For me, I was forced off my opiate pain management 2 years ago against my will. I was told by Kaiser Permanente I could not consent to opiate treatment despite having taken them successfully for 15 years with no issue, and as a benefit to my health. They cut me off, and my health has gone down significantly. At the same time, Kaiser, as you know, I believe it's Chloe that's suing Kaiser. Kaiser will basically give these medications and procedures on demand to children. They're saying children can consent to these life-altering and disabling procedures, but I, as a 59-year-old woman, cannot consent to reasonable pain management. And they're both captures. They're both institutional captures. In my case, it's a group think that there's only one narrative around opiates, that they're banned. Mm-hmm. And it's a striking parallel, honestly.
Yeah, that's a really
topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels there. I guess my question is, over your 40 years of activism and observation and participation, and obviously your own personal experiences, what do you think are the most common themes or parallels that you've seen between events that are happening today and activism that was occurring in maybe say like the 80s or 90s around gender?
Well, there's a couple different ways to approach this. I think, I was part of women's rights movement and gay rights movement, from 1980 on. I feel, however, those movements have been captured and corrupted and are very regressive at this point. And I don't feel I can call myself a feminist anymore. I don't want to be a part of the general LGBTQ blah blah movement. I used to go to Pride in New York City when it was, in the early 80s when AIDS was starting. And it was a whole different thing than it is now. And I'm LGBT, but I'm one of the, like gays against groomers type. This is a perversion. So basically, when you're resisting any of these current movements, you basically become a pariah. You're a white supremacist, fascist, transphobe, homophobe, all the names I've been called. I kept a list. I want to make a shirt with all of them on it. I think it'd be funny for irony. But there is a violence to these activist groups now too that in all my years of activism I've never seen, and I don't think it's activism when we've had, especially in the political Northwest, we've had the violence with Antifa, that if you go anything against the community, you cast out. One of my rookie mistakes was as an activist with a sterling progressive resume. I mean, I check all the boxes as a progressive with just a history, a documented history of, quote unquote, being on the right side. But as soon as I started to criticize them, I was shut out. And I thought my rookie mistake was I thought I had social capital that people would listen to me, saying this type of activism is wrong. This isn't, I don't like this cancel culture. I don't like shutting down free speech that I don't agree with. And I certainly don't like political violence. And so as I started writing about homelessness, and the conservatives reached out to me on that, like the conservatives are reaching out to the D-trans people. And, I never really met conservatives. I was pretty bigoted against conservatives. But here they were, reaching out to me. There was a little bit of the love bombing aspect that we have to be careful about. But I started going to conservative events and just found out they were really nice people. And so, I started writing about that. And that's when it got really bad. In 2020, Antifa declared me basically an enemy, that I needed to be creatively silenced. They wrote an article and published it on Puget Sound Anarchist.
And what was that over? What was their reasoning for that?
Just, well, I was writing on homelessness, and I wasn't just praising the homeless. And so, and writing about conservatives and doing conservative media, I became a fascist, a white supremacist, a racist, transphobe.
So am I hearing correctly that there was that criticism of any sort of leftist typical issue has now arisen? So the association that you must be a fascist, that you must be a right wing, that any, like, whereas in the past, there was a larger middle area politically. There was moderation, and there was a middle ground in the center between right and left issues. And now there's a growing divide. And then is that sort of what you're saying?
I think it's the villainization, because there's always been a divide, and there's always been clashes. Like in the '60s, especially in the '70s, there was a lot. The political violence was pretty hardcore in the '70s, and so there was. It's not like it hasn't existed, but what's different now is making it so personal that they will go after individuals and just try to destroy them. If you don't agree, that they will go out of their way. I mean, they put out a disinformation campaign about me to basically dehumanize me, so people feel okay being violent against me. I've been denied service at bars in Olympia. I've been verbally and physically abused on the streets. If I'm publicly speaking, I need a bodyguard in 2023 in Olympia, Washington. I need a bodyguard to publicly speak. That's me.
And who are the people that are harassing you?
I'm not to brag, the most hated woman in Olympia. It started with Antifa, a lot of Antifa. They were the organizers of the disinformation campaign. Like, they would print newspapers with my name on it, or like sticker flyers with my name and my fascist Vita on it, and hang them around downtown. The intelligentsia does not like me because I poke their bears, and the intelligentsia of Olympia, they endorse the disinformation and the hate, and they kind of mainstream it. I mean, I don't, like, when I talk about this, it sounds like, oh, she's making it up or she's exaggerating. A man got shot. I ran for council in 2021, and I had a political rally. And in the course of the events of that day, Antifa shot a man who was protecting the rally from Antifa. That's the level of violence. So it's real, and like, there's parts of Olympia I don't feel comfortable going. Like, I might be safe, but I don't, like, something could happen. That didn't happen before. And just as a contrast, I did 10 years of Palestinian solidarity with the Rachel Corrie Foundation for Peace and Justice. So working on one of the most sensitive issues there is geopolitically, Palestine. And I worked with Rachel Corrie. She was an activist who was killed by an Israeli bulldozer in Gaza in 2003, and then her parents started doing activism. We did high-level activism on a very sensitive issue. I did it for a decade. I never was attacked by the right. I never, they would mock Rachel, and there were memes about Rachel that were very tasteless. And her parents definitely faced, a higher level of scrutiny. But just as a soldier activist, nobody bothered me. I wrote for Electronic Intifada. No death threats, no doxing, no putting my poster up.
Why do you think that? What has changed culturally? Is it that the radical left is just so far left, or is it maybe in my view, I feel it may be the nihilism that's generally perpetuated in our culture. And I actually saw this really interesting article the other day about how depression rates are associated with left-leaning politics. Obviously, I'd like to explore that more and see the exact details. But what I saw was that, as we know, women tend to have higher levels of neuroticism. They're more sensitive to negative emotion. And so depression rates are highest among liberal women. But what this study was showing was that depression rates are actually higher right now among liberal men than they are among conservative women. And so that suggests that maybe a lot of the nihilism is focused around the left. And I just wonder why that might be.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you bring that up, but I have similar observations personally on this. Is the nihilism of the left is soul destroying. What it trains you to do is everything that's against good mental health principles. It teaches you to find the problematic in everything and everyone as a reflex, as an automatic thinking that you don't even think about it. You just do it. I joke that I could do 3 minutes. Give me a topic random and I'll improv on 3 minutes why it's horrible. One thing I find interesting about the right and conservatives, and that I have found helpful for my mental health, and I think is applicable to mental health in general, is that the conservatives and the right are not afraid to see strength as a virtue. They don't like victims, and that's not to say they're not compassionate and helping. Like, they are very much into service and helping people and charity work, but they do expect people to be a participant in their own situation. They don't want people that are just helpless, do it all for me. When they like to help people, they like to see people who are trying, and the classic phrase and this, I'm seeing this a lot through homelessness. The classic phrase, is give you a hand up and not a hand out. And so they prize strength in all forms. And I think the left demonizes strength at this point. Like, somehow strength is seen as being oppressive and, white and blah, 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 even when it's personal strength. And when there's also this trend for victimhood as currency, and how people will introduce themselves with all their list of diagnoses and sexual proclivities. And it's kind of ridiculous to me, because that's the least interesting thing about you. Like, it doesn't tell me anything about who you are as a person, what we might have in common beyond that. Like it's being in a club, sort of. Like, it doesn't tell me what your interests are, your personality. And it's something I find very weird and odd about this. I mean, it makes sense in terms of human behavior, and it's a way of signaling like anything else. But I don't think it's very healthy to make these things your identity, especially when it comes to mental health diagnoses. Because if your mental health diagnosis becomes your identity, and I say this as a disabled woman, who wrestles with where does disability fit in my life? And for over 20 years, I've been disabled. But I don't make disability an identity. And I think, especially with the mental health conditions, making them your identity means you're kind of married to them. And there is then a subtle pressure to not get better, because if you get better, then you lose your identity, and that can kind of cause some disorientation as well. And it's not to negate mental illness or negate any of the struggles, but it's to not prioritize them in your life. You prioritize healing, you want to heal, and healing is possible. That's not what I'm saying, that you should ignore them in any way, but they can't become your life. You have to live outside of your constraints and in spite of your constraints, and even use your constraints to make better art.
Right, exactly. Like, I can definitely see my evolution from, young, naive, more leftist, but mental illness being my identity, that there's a big difference between mental illness as your identity and healing as an identity. And obviously that can't be your only identity, but in both instances, you're still acknowledging that, you maybe have a diagnosis or a condition or a struggle. But the major difference is that in the more popular leftist view right now is that the negative mindset, the pessimistic mindset is the focus on the lack, the focus on the stuckness, the focus on other people typically, or systems of oppression being, what's holding you down and keeping you stuck, and you're in this turmoil, which is a very real experience. I've experienced it for years, but I've now evolved to have a position more of healing as my identity. I don't I have complex PTSD. I talk about it a lot. It's a big part of my life, but it's the healing process from it. It's the transcendence from it. It's the lessons I've learned, the wisdom, what I try to impart to other people, how I've connected with other people and risen up out of that, that I'm proud of. It's an identity I'm proud of. I'm not proud to have CPTSD, but I am proud to be healing from it. And the right, and, when we say the right and left, it's vague, but just sort of traditional conservative values have personally helped me greatly. I know we're both fans of Jordan Peterson, and that's a whole other discussion that we will get into another time. But his values of just imparting just more nuance and more optimism, going from pessimism to neutrality and acceptance to optimism that there is some form of a path, a way out. And I do think that's lacking. I do think we have a nihilistic and spiritually depressed culture, and that people can only find transcendent experience that, is maybe more vivid and moving and powerful to us than the average experience. We're more connected to consciousness or more in a flow state. People are more so finding that these days through short-term gratification, the dopamine hits from social media, drugs, food. Obviously, we have a huge obesity problem. Even just the adrenaline and cortisol that you get from fighting with someone, online, just that sort of arousal is, and obviously we still have other things. We still have music, we still have art, we still have other things, but people aren't getting that transcendent experience over in a more consistent way over the long term, through sort of consistent daily practice, daily efforts of moving and transcending each, daily state of being towards a higher self. And they're getting it in a short-term way that doesn't provide a lot of change. And as you said, they don't have a lot of motivation to change when they are in that negative, stuck mindset, and they can't find neutrality. That's a huge, huge thing. Not only can they not find a positive outlook, and I'm not saying that's easy, that is extremely difficult. That's why I advocate that the path towards, reaching a more positive, optimistic outlook is neutrality and acceptance. But in order to even get to neutrality and acceptance, you need to be able to see that there is another point of view in the first place, that there is another side, that there is nuance, and you do need to, release your clinging to your original, psychodrama, your original narrative that you're telling yourself. And I think, and as we know, that's not popular within contemporary leftist, discourse, that there is one way, and it's a way of mantras, and it's a way of the same sort of affirmational things. And any other perspective is not going to be accessible. And so they can't reach neutrality. If they were to reach neutrality, they would be able to release some of that tension and have more openness towards another way of life. And the negative emotion and the stubbornness gets in the way of that.
Absolutely. Boy, I have a lot to say about what you said. We don't have the time to go into all of that. But I agree with so much of what you said, and just see it as well. And I think what I want to talk about, since we are talking about our art next, is the importance. I joke, this is my equivalent to, hey, you kids, get off my lawn. My punk rock equivalent is, hey, why don't you kids just go start a band?
That's awesome.
Because that's what, that's what my generation did. When we had the angst and the growing pains and rebellion against our parents or the world, which, wasn't awesome either in a lot of ways. We put it all into our creative outlet. And I say this without joking, that art has saved my life at many points in my life. At least like 3 or 4 key points. It was committing to my art that it's what kept me alive. Not that I've ever been actively suicidal, but it's what gave me a way to build my capacity, an investment in myself, a way to get attention, a way to build skills, and the flow state. You brought up that flow state and having it in daily practice. And, we've talked about this before. I am a big believer in that you do your art or whatever your creative endeavor is every day, commit to it as a habit, like working out. And my method, and I've done it for years at a time, I think my record is a little over 2 years, is just committing to 15 minutes a day as a minimum. And it could be any aspect of your project that keeps you involved with the project. But ideally, it's one that's going to put you in that flow state. And you'll find that even if you don't feel like doing it that particular day, if you put it at 15 minutes, it's not too overwhelming. And then you often will continue on to 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour because you're in such a pleasurable flow state. And it's just healing in a way that, for me at least, nothing else. I mean, I think athletics or getting out in nature could be the equivalent for other people. But for creative people, especially for creative people, if you're not creating, you're causing yourself angst. Like, it has to get out. If you're creative, that urge has to express itself. And I think that's a part of why people are exploring the gender. I think that's a manifestation of that creativity begging to get out. And that's why I joke about, go start a band.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with all of what you said. I think that, where to even start? I think as creative people, I mean, this is the thing, all human beings are creative because,
Yes.
but, obviously there's some people who are more creative in relationships and social connections, and more people who are creative in, facilitating, change or political, or more people who are creative with a more personal, introspective type of, traditionally seen artistry.
Everyone has a superpower, is what I said.
Yeah.
Everyone has a superpower, and you can never tell what it is by looking at them. Like,
Never?
never judge people, because you don't know what's underneath all that.
I think I like to joke that I'm the archetype of the eccentric artist. Like, this is what I tell people. Sometimes, like, people will be like, wow, like your clothes or you're dressed, really interestingly or whatever. And I'll just be like, I'm an artist. I have to. And they're like, oh, I get it. Like, just say you're an artist, you get away with anything. But
but it is more than just a profession. It is a lifestyle. Like, I don't know that lawyers probably are a little bit lawyerly in their personal life, but I don't know. Art is one of those 24/7 things. You're never not on.
I think artists, I think what you were saying about needing to get it out, the fact that there's a flip side to creating. And what is the flip side to that is consuming. And we consume a lot, right? So it's all human beings we consume and we create. But the importance is that we need to have a balance. And I think what's missing today is a lot of people do not have that balance. We're consuming so much, but we're not creating. And we need to do both, that energy exchange of giving and receiving ourselves and just life itself. I think that people who are artistic are sensitive. They're taking all of this stuff, maybe feeling it even more, intensely than other people. And if they're not, when I was depressed and nihilistic and I was not doing enough creative expression, I mean, there's a marked difference. I mean, the amount of creative expression I do today, like, I still should do more. Like, I really need a lot, but like, I just wasn't doing it. And what you say about starting a band, I mean, that's pretty much it, because not only are you, finding a way to, balance out all that consuming, receiving, perceiving energy, and judgment, right? Like, perceiving or judging things versus creating, when you're creating something and you're in that flow state, there isn't really a judgment. You are in that neutral place. You might be making a decision. It's not like you're just brain dead, but you're going with the flow of it. And so there isn't that judgment and there isn't that resistance that you experience in other mindsets. And so that is so healing, because it rewires your brain to then get into that neutral state. And for me, with all the detransition stuff and all the other mental health stuff, I mean, that's pretty much the number one thing, as I've said, acceptance. And then you can reach acceptance through, you can't force acceptance. I've tried, but you can sort of sneak in there by just allowing yourself, like you said, like 15 minutes, you get into it, you shift your consciousness, and then you're able to it's easier for you to then experience positive emotion. And if you're not experiencing,
I'm sorry, interrupted. I think you're connecting with life in one of the most fundamental states. Like, I don't know, for me, it is transcendent. And whether you do drugs or not, like, I think the flow state, however you achieve it, for some people, like, I also get in the flow state when I'm gaming. Those are my board games behind me. That's also a positive flow state. And I have read research that flow state will interrupt trauma, and that one study, there's a book called Super Better, which is about using gamification to help heal from trauma. And one of the research studies they had in there is they think that you can actually interrupt a trauma response by going and gaming. And so, I have tried it a few times, and I can't speak to it being versus my other techniques or whatever, but when I have been feeling things closing in, as it were, I will just interrupt it by going and gaming, and it does it at the least interrupt it. So, and I think the other thing that's important about creating art is it's an emotional outlet. You're literally putting yourself on the paper, or in the sound, or whatever you're doing artistically. It's coming from your emotions. Your emotions are leaving you. They're not just being stuck. You're not just looking inward. You're expressing them. And, it's kind of circling around to, the reason of our talk, et cetera. Then you're showing those emotions and that work in yourself to the world, which can be scary, but it's going out into the world, and then you can have that additional purpose for activism and changing minds and persuading people. And that's what a lot of, my art, right now is about, like kind of doing propaganda almost, of creating some culture that is just kind of disruptive to the current culture. And if you'd like, I have some short slideshow.
Yes, Candace, I would love to see the slideshow.
All right, Oh, you have disabled the screen sharing. You must enable that.
I must. I'm enabling you. I'm enabling.
Oh, no, I know. And that is the worst thing you can do. It's not good to enable people. And, while you're figuring that out, related to enabling is learned helplessness. And that's a really subtle thing. And you have to be really careful about it. It's something I've struggled with as someone that has chronic pain. You can't give up the fight. You always have to be, just leaving it on the table every day. I think that's really important. And when it comes to doing art, another thing that's really important, I think, about art is it's an investment in yourself. And investing in yourself is one of the most important things you can do, because even if it's at 15 minutes a day, your skills are getting better. You're thinking about the project. You're growing on a daily basis, and having that growth, I think, is very gratifying. I'm at age 59 right now, and I feel I'm doing some of the most exciting and important work I've ever done. I'm nowhere near retiring or giving up. I have a word of the year, and it's relentless. And to that effect, I am just producing quality work, and maybe not daily, but on the whole, I write for Substack. I have a Substack, Candace Mercer, and currently the story I've written several articles on gender. I was, I guess, related to this topic. There's the movie Adult Human Female that just came out, which was about Kelly Jean Keene's tour of the United States on the Let Women Speak. And I participated in a couple of the Let Women Speak events that got violent. One was with Kelly J in Tacoma in October of last year. And the other one was in Port Townsend, Washington. in August of that year, and both made international news because of the violence of trans rights activists against us. In both cases, it was about 30 of us older women, a lot of us disabled, against mobs in Port Townsend. There was at least 300 people. In Tacoma, it was probably between 150, 200. Both times we were mobbed, we were verbally and physically abused, we were spat on, trash was thrown on us. They tried to drown out so we couldn't speak. They tried to steal our equipment. In Tacoma, one woman got her hand broken. Other women had minor injuries in Port Townsend. And one thing that was striking about Tacoma in the Kelly J. Keene film that you'll see is most of our attackers were high school students who were from the local performing arts school near us. And there was about 150 of them, and they just worked themselves up into a hatred of us that was remarkable and scary. And it was interesting for me that, here I am, an artist, et cetera, and having these art students just acting in these ways that are very, I feel, non-artistic. But it's remarkable that women, we weren't allowed to speak in America. So I think the Detransition Generation movie and Adult Human Female movie, I hope they get treated, at least with even half of what is a woman is, because I think the three films together really show the different aspects of what's going on.
So I think I've enabled it.
Okay.
And we've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay. And then, so I think maybe I'll do my slideshow and then you do your video, and then we'll come back and talk about the giveaways.
Yes, the giveaways.
Yeah. And yeah, here we go. All right. Do you see that?
I see that it says you started sharing screen. Yes, I see it now.
Okay. Here is some of the art I'm doing currently around gender issues. This is doing some street art in downtown Olympia, which is Olympia is the trans motherland. Trans people move here because it's so accepting, and it's been really on the forefront of all these developments. And so it's a very, very, very trans-friendly place. But it's gotten to the point where, to me, downtown has become almost hostile to me. Outside of all the attacking and what I was talking about before, just going down there, there's so many pride flags and progress flags, et cetera. It just feels hostile. It just feels, it's hard to explain as an LGBT person. But there's this feeling like this is our territory. And if you come here, you better believe. And so for me, doing street art in downtown Olympia is a petty act of resistance to say, no, there's other people here too. And the one image in the middle I'd like to point out, the Scream Louder with the cat, that's an image I did. I designed for Scott Nugent for Trey Voices. Scott's a friend, and I fully support what he's been doing. He's been kicking ass. I have to give a shout out to his energy as an activist. He is amazing. I did that image. We wanted an image that people could wear, but not that could be discreet, that doesn't scream trans or detrans or anything, but like a parent could wear to a soccer game, and the image another parent would be like, oh man, I love your cat image. Boom, opening for conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we made it with a dog too. I did this in response to the What is a Woman movie. That's some of my art from the 90s, the woman image, and then I updated it for today. Again, the figure is a reference to, or that's from a poster I did for a punk rock band in the 80s. That was actually my first piece of art style ever. Believe it or not. And I just love it. There's just something about the angles and the design. And so I took the image out of the punk rock poster and got a little more modern and subversive with it. Here it is again, taking a little bit from there, or not a little bit, but all the way from Kelly J. Keene and doing the woman as an adult human female. And these are the designs that I have on T-shirts and on stickers and on flyer types. So the giveaway will be for sticker packs with these images in them, folios with the street art in it, like the original street art, and then we'll have 4 gift certificates that have been donated for detrans awareness. This is another image. This is the shirt you have. This is off the Picasso painting, Demoiselles d'Avignon, which was done in 1917, and it was a study of prostitutes. It was very controversial in its time, so controversial that Picasso was even afraid to show it to his friends because what was interesting about it, he was depicting women as being horribly ugly. And it wasn't, Picasso was kind of a misogynist and not an awesome human. But I don't know that you can describe his art as being misogynist or ugly in terms of like hating women or anything.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've always looked at this piece as the different phases of the menstrual cycle, going from kind of neutral and blah, and there's the sexy phase, and then there's the PMS phase where you're just not yourself. And so kind of the different phases of your monthly cycle, if we were
That's
going
cool.
to talk frankly. Here's some more street art in downtown Olympia. And I put these up during Arts Walk, so they got seen a bit and torn down pretty quickly, but they were up. I did this also. This is work I did from the 80s, repurposed with, the common hashtag, Let Women Speak. This is a completely new piece. I just did this in 2022 when I'm starting to learn to use digital art. And I really like the superhero piece, the power of this one. And it speaks to what I was saying before about strength as a virtue. This is my favorite one. This is the one that's behind me. Again, this is a new one I did in 2022, completely using Canva, using my new skills. And I did an older piece back in the 80s and it was another pinup girl using the catchphrase "Censor Me Harder, Baby," which was for a censorship show, which was against the right wing, was against the moral majority. It was against putting the stickers on our record labels and censoring us. And here we are again, and I am stunned that I am aiming. The object of me aiming these criticisms is the left. I never thought the left would be trying to censor me or shut me up or using violence against me. It's ridiculous. There it is in its beauty.
Candace, these designs are awesome. Can you tell people how can they participate in the giveaway? How can they receive some of these designs and products?
I have a couple more slides and then can I get to that?
Yeah, I just am mindful of the time.
Oh, mindful of the time. Okay, I'll just quickly go through these. And then my store is candio.com, candio.com. There's one for Scott, another one. This one I really like. And I wanted to show you here's what we faced in Port Townsend. There's a couple of the people who wanted to hurt us. Here I am with Billboard Chris when he came through Olympia. And here's my what I call my boner speech. I've given it several times. It's about autogynephilia and what they don't want you to know about that. So I'm going to stop the share. And yeah, so in honor of D-Trans Awareness Day, a friend of mine named Kevin, he's a supporter and he's someone who has protected me from violence, as I was talking about before. He has gifted 4 $30 gift certificates to my store at candyo.com. And he would like these to go to detransitioners who are lower income, or at the least just people in general who are low income. And if you want to, we're going to draw randomly. We're going to give it about 10 days for people to see the video and comments. And if you'd like to, you're interested in one of the gift certificates, make a comment and you'll write gift certificate in. You don't have to tell anything about your situation. Just we'll do it on the honor system. And then in addition, I'm going to do some folios of my art. So I have like these nice glossy folios and they're filled with originals of my different street art. Well, there we go. Explosion of street art.
Yes.
So I will send, I can commit to 5 folios. So the first 5 people who comment and say they're interested in a folio in the comments, I will reply with my contact information to those comments, and they can privately send me their contact information, and I will send them a folio of art. And in addition, let's see if I can do a little better with this, is I haven't cut these yet, but I just got these printed. For the first other 20 people who are interested in doing some street art with stickers, I will send the first 20 people 1 to 2 ounces of stickers of the various designs. I'm doing a little better here. It's not focused great, but so I've got about, I don't know, 8 or 10 different designs. So I'll make up sticker packs and send those out to people. And you don't have to be detransitioner to get the sticker packs or the folios. Just the gift certificates was something with the income, and my friend Kevin just wanted to do something nice for the community and support my store. And so that's the idea we came up with. And then we were going to do the podcast, and we thought what better way to distribute them is through the podcast. Mm-hmm. So thank you. Thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And just to clarify, the first people to comment have a choice. So there's 20 sticker packs, 5 folios of art prints, and 4 $30 gift certificates to your store available.
Yes. Okay. And so we'll do the free stuff that I'm fulfilling. We'll just do that in comment order. The first 5 people to comment saying they want a folio, I'll hook you up. The next 20 people, or they could be the same, 20 people that want sticker packs, comment, and I will reply with my contact information so you can reach out to me with where to ship them. And then with the gift certificates, we're going to leave the comments open for 10 days. If you're interested in a gift certificate, make a note in the comment, and then we're going to randomly pick 4 people from whoever is interested from that group.
Okay, that's awesome. You guys make sure that you leave those comments. These are really awesome stickers, very high quality products. The street art sounds awesome. Put those up, spread some awareness, and make sure you're commenting and liking this video. And definitely check out Candace's website for more, candio.com. Yeah, and then I wanted to just promote a little bit of my stuff. I have a very short video just for D-Trans Awareness Day stuff, since I am still selling that. Of course, you can get this, the D-Trans Awareness stuff all year round, but D-Trans Awareness Day is on March 12th. And really, we're trying to also make March D-Trans Awareness Month, right? Because every other, thing has like a whole month. So, you can get these anytime. And of course,
Is there a reason I'm sorry. Is there a reason it's March? Is there?
I honestly don't know. That's a good question. Sorry,
I interrupted. My curious mind.
D-Trans Awareness Day has only been going on for like 2 to 3 years at the most. So this is very new. So I'll have to figure that out. And so yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen now and share that video. Okay, so you can see that. Let me see. Let me try to make this full screen. Here we go. Cool. Oh, now it's gonna start playing some funk music. All right,
that is some nice looking merchandise. It really, you're doing a great job with your store, and you're on Etsy, right?
Yes. So my store is Funk God, and it is on Etsy. I may, just for people watching this in the future, I may be moving my shop location to my own website from Etsy, so it might be on funkgod.com in the future. But for now, the links will be for Etsy, and we'll put all the links and information in the description of this video. So yeah, as you can see in that ad, there's beanies, many different colors, D-Trans Awareness Day shirts. They also say 2013 or 2023 at the bottom. So specifically for this sort of year, this moment right now. And also more covert ones that just have the lizard symbol on it without D-Trans Awareness, just, again, to sort of spark those conversations without blatantly saying D-Trans Awareness. Like that's, but for those who do want to be bold, there's, a banner like protest flag with the lizard and D-Trans Awareness on it. That would be perfect for protests and marches. I know Sidewalk Steve requested that. And there's also baseball hats and then stickers. There's sticker packs. And I'm still working out how to do bulk stickers. So if you're interested in that, just message me and we can figure something out for that. And I also just wanted to quickly show, oh, I should have done this when I was screen sharing. I just wanted to quickly show my store, just because there's a couple other designs that that aren't D-Trans related that there was in that video that I shared. Yeah,
I was wondering if you were going to be selling some of your other art that's really wonderful as well.
Right. So this is just what I've got so far. Definitely will be adding much more. So you can see the D-Trans Awareness collection in here, the different things. But I've also got other stuff. So I have some wall prints. Again, I'm going to be adding a lot more designs, but you can kind of see the style, obviously, very funky. Going to be adding a lot more rat-based art as well.
I love the rat base. I am such a fan of the rat base art.
Yes, and then this print specifically, if you can see, this one here is called Wine Ants. And several of my literal wine ants have bought this as a print. I have a lot of wine ants. But like I have some kind of more female experience based work. So maybe for International Women's Day or and month, Women's History Month. I also have some other things, some candles, kind of some spiritual healing sort of stuff. And this mug that I am has been very popular so far. I'm so happy. This is like my favorite. The Time to Boogie. I need to get one of these myself. And phone cases.
I love the color inside on it too.
Yeah,
It's
that's an
got the
option that for a product on Printful, you can get different colors inside, which I'm like, of course,
Yeah.
just more colors.
That's really sharp.
Yeah.
Oh, these look great. These are working out really well, especially that red one.
Yeah. So
That red one is, and the 90s, yeah, it's so it's so 90s. I don't understand the people liking the 90s. I'm going to be honest. I think the 80s are cooler,
well,
but
this is
I
similar to the 80s.
understand.
This is similar to the 80s.
Not the no, we would never have done the pastels. The shapes are sort of 80s. But we were definitely more like the neon colors. Like that would have been kind of, yeah. I mean, a little bit, but yeah, more 90s. I think you are more 90s for sure.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I was born in 97, but that's really interesting about the saturation versus the pastel.
Definitely. And neon colors. Neon colors were really, really an 80s thing. I mean, it was a wonderful time to come up, honestly. Just a lot different than today. But what else? Do you have anything else?
Yeah, just more about the phone cases. Again, I'm going to add a lot more, but this is an example of sort of the vaporwave. Again, it's, vaporwave is like a early 2000s sort of nostalgia of the 80s. But this is an example of some surreal type. And then of course I have my sort of psychedelic abstracts. So again, this is what I've got so far, but there's going to be a lot more. And then also, I also do offer custom paintings. So these are actually traditional canvas paintings. This one here is a commission I did for a friend. It's a 20 by 20 painting on canvas. And so here are some other examples of what I call soul paintings.
Those are fabulous.
Very spiritual. I call this the Milwaukee soul, because I'm from Milwaukee, and these are actually the Milwaukee flag colors. Paisley, got to do this. This was a pain to make. There's a lot of details in this.
Look at that.
This is hormones.
And that is the flow state. Those paintings are almost like a textbook. If you had to, what is flow? It's sitting there drawing those lines and coloring them in and feeling the shapes and the emotions that are in those pieces. That's flow.
If you want to know, like, I just started doing literally flow painting. I have
that's right.
Meta. Let me see if I can grab a few of them here. They're still, I literally just made these last night, so they're a little bit like wet still. But this is fluid art, and it's literally like you're using kinesthetics, you're moving it around, you're using different chemicals to get different chemical reactions to create, these like really trippy effects. I'm like so into this now.
Yeah, those are just amazing. And your color choices and like, the movement in them.
Yeah, the rhythm is huge.
Yeah, so literal flow.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys are interested in a custom painting, I can do many different sizes. Just message me, different sizes, different color options, different motifs for the fluid paintings or the soul paintings. So I guess sort of to wrap up, we wanted to talk about just sort of really, it's just a very beautiful thing, like to connect with different generations of people, and especially women doing these different cat.
Thank you.
Yes, we have to. I'll have to bring out my rats like in another, but I mean that's just a whole other thing. But
I don't think we should have them on screen at the same time.
yes, that might cause some friction.
Yeah. Although maybe they'd get along.
They might. But I mean, I think, it's just really cool to meet someone off Twitter. I mean, that's how we met, I've met so many amazing people that are just authentic, smart, kind, supportive, creative, resourceful, a little neurotic, but that's fine. Very funky people from Twitter and just people doing this work. And, you're definitely one of the, people that I've talked to a lot from Twitter, and we've developed a friendship, and it's just been really rewarding to me, as a young person to have a, older female friend and mentor, and also like making our shops like around the same time, it's very synchronous. It's very serendipitous.
We like a lot of the same music, like
yes.
Rick James, which Rick, in addition to the Jordan Peterson, there's the Rick James and the literal funk.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which we'll have to tell us another. Yeah, that's another day.
There's so much we could get into. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Candace. It's been awesome. We'll definitely do another discussion. If you have any, other things you'd like to say, Candace, just,
Well, just briefly, I like, if there's one thing I want to talk to your generation about the gender issue, and I'll try to keep this brief, is our generation, we definitely played with gender and we broke a lot of gender rules, but we didn't have the angst about it that concerns me. And it's hard to figure out why that angst exists other than it's almost been manufactured. We played with gender in the extremes, men and women, especially in the music world. I wore suits, like Grace Jones or Annie Lennox. I would buy men's suits and wear them. I would get called the D word and the F word for gay people. I don't want to say it because of YouTube. I would get called those things in the same hour, being yelled at on the streets. But we played with it and we had fun with it, and we were subversive with it and we rebelled with it. But it, honest to God, never entered our mind to try to change our sex in the way that's happening now. And it wasn't any sort of repression. I mean, there's always been the few, the controversial name true trans people. That's not denied. But our generation, we dealt with being gay and coming out of the closet with that. If the trans issue had been around for us on the level it is now, I'm certain we would have dealt with it in a similar way of coming out of the closet, Another thing that was very interesting about this gender freedom of our time is that we didn't beg for inclusion. We didn't want to get beat up, or we wanted equal rights. We didn't want to be treated, with discrimination. at the same time, we didn't want acceptance or inclusion. If anything, we were a special, fun, private club that, you know, existed outside of society. We were the rebels, we were the trendsetters, we were the artists. And we didn't, you know, if anything, we were just like, fuck you to inclusion. We don't want to be included in what you're selling. And I think that's a real difference. And there was also what I think was a real inclusion in the last example here I'll give is Prince, for example, talking about music and funk music. Prince has a song called Controversy. I'm not straight, I'm not black or white, I'm not straight or gay. And just that line sums it up in that we just completely rejected people putting us in boxes. And that's why it's really hard and mystifying for our generation, especially like being on the punk rock. You know, I was one of the original punk rock in the late 70s and early 80s, you know, cutting my hair short, mohawks, extensions, you know, everything. And I was part of the music scene. Um, it was really different, and I think people look down on it in some sort of bad way, but it was just so much healthier and more positive. And I see, and this is like another topic for another conversation, is I see the relative sex positivity that we had been generating towards sex and gender. I've seen it turn into sex negativity, like with porn culture and the fetish culture and the pressure to be anything but cis het straight, you know, white, you know, so you're not an oppressor. I feel that's really sex negative and it's harming people. And the permissiveness there is, to wrap it up, the permissiveness I'm seeing here, you know, in the grooming controversy, I also saw this and lived through this in the late 70s, the 70s and the 80s. The 70s was the disco culture, and it was really one of the first waves of the sexual revolution after the 60s. I think it was 1973. The pill came on the market and abortion became legal. And that really spearheaded a sexual revolution, a very permissive sexual culture. And that culture is what led to my sexual abuse. And it wasn't necessarily that, you know, the person who abused me literally groomed me, but the culture set both of us up for this to happen. It set me up by, you know, seeing in like especially the rock culture, the sexual promiscuity, etc. And like of the disco culture, it set up my abuser to also sort of have the permission and think it was okay to abuse me. And so I am seeing this current level of sexual permissiveness. I'm seeing it in the same way as it's the culture grooming people to be set up to be sexually abused. And that's another reason I really have come out, you know, and put myself on the line for this in very trans-friendly Olympia. I'm willing to, you know, stand out there with Billboard Chris. I'm willing to go put that street up there downtown because I see it and have lived a different world that, at least to my view, like I said, is just so much healthier. So I guess that's what I would have to say. And to the detransitioners, my message, you know, as someone who's been through medical trauma myself as well, it's very hard to trust the medical system after they've harmed you. It's very hard to trust the world after they've sold you something that's harmed you. Many of you have deep trauma. I have trauma from my abuse. It is possible to heal. It's possible to rewrite those traumas. It's possible to get better. A lot of times it gets worse before it gets better, and it's a hard journey, but you're worth it. You're worth fighting for. You are a good person. You were brought to bear, forces were brought to bear on you that are just stunning and shocking. And never feel ashamed that you fell into it, because it's very compelling and dangerous. So, sorry, get a little misty. I really care a lot about the detrans community and the people that are speaking up, the people that aren't speaking up, that are just dealing with it quietly. You have my full sympathy and support.
Thank you, Candace. That's extremely powerful. I echo all those sentiments. And as someone in it and emerging, in that healing process out of all these things, regaining trust, conversations like these, conversations on Benjamin Boyce, and just discourse on Twitter and different, small interpersonal interactions where really there can be human understanding, are really the most healing thing.
Well, you have to make sense of it, just like with all my cancellation and stuff. These things are very disorienting to you. And I think through these conversations, sense can be made not only for the people having a conversation, but helping give people think about it in different ways, and know they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I hope everyone, watching this, is resonating with this conversation. You're not alone either. You are part of it. We have at least a parasocial relationship going on. So I hope
I'd like to think it's a little more. I mean,
at least.
Yeah, I feel like we have a lot in common.
Oh no, you and me. I mean the the actual like the viewers. Yeah. No, we actually have like a genuine relationship, but
Okay.
just people watching, it's okay. There's a lot, there's always art. At least there is always art. So
Art will save your life.
It will. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Candace. I think this has been a really profound conversation. So many things that we can talk more about in the future. If you guys like this, please, subscribe to my channel, and all the links will be in the description. Check out Candace's store, candio.com, my store, Funk God, on Etsy, and my website, funkgod.com. We can follow us on Twitter, talk to us, and if there's any cool, funky stuff going on, let us know. All right. We want to, be part of it and connect, just keep spreading growth and awareness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Invest in yourself.
All right. Well, stay groovy, everybody. Don't forget to boogie.
Good night, Laura.
Good night.